Recovered voicemail recording. Rain hits the windshield while a turn signal clicks slowly in the background. A woman is crying quietly. Then she says, "Evan, please don't hang up this time." A notification sound interrupts the message. After that, the audio disappears completely. No static, no distortion, just silence. But the voicemail timer keeps moving. 9 seconds. 10. 11. The waveform suddenly spikes like someone is speaking into the microphone. There's still no sound. Then a second voice whispers softly into the left audio channel. "You ended it again." Evan Rowe restores damaged audio archives for insurance companies and local police departments. Most of the work is routine. Flooded hard drives, broken surveillance microphones, corrupted emergency calls pulled from old dispatch systems. 3 years ago, Evan's wife Claire died during a highway accident in the middle of a storm. Her final voicemail cut off before she finished speaking. Evan never deleted the message. At first he replayed it because he missed her. Later, he replayed it because something about the silence afterward started bothering him. It lasted too long. Not emotionally long. Literally long. Exactly 17 seconds after Claire's voice cuts out, the waveform starts moving again. Every single time. At first, Evan assumed it was damaged compression data or some kind of audio artifact. But the waveform changes slightly every time he opens the file, like something inside it is reacting. One night, he sends the recording to another audio engineer he used to work with. 2 minutes later, the engineer replies with one sentence. "I don't think that silence is empty." After that, the engineer disappears. No replies. No activity. His accounts stop updating that same night. A week later, a package appears outside Evan's apartment door. There is no shipping label and no return address. Inside is an old cassette recorder and a handwritten note. The note contains one sentence. Everyone in Bellwether Point heard it eventually. Inside the recorder is a tape labeled Dispatch Archive, July 14th, 2017. The recording begins with emergency dispatchers receiving disconnected calls from the same coastal town. Every call follows the same pattern. Someone starts saying goodbye. The audio cuts out. Then 17 seconds of silence follow. At first, the dispatchers think the phone system is malfunctioning. Then, one operator notices the waveform moving during the silence. A woman quietly asks, "Why is there still audio activity?" Another dispatcher responds a few seconds later. "Someone's still breathing on the line." The tape cuts off immediately after that. Evan searches Bellwether Point online. Almost nothing about the town still exists. No active residents. No recent photographs. Most public records are gone. The only surviving images show empty streets covered in fog and telephone poles, stretching directly toward the ocean. Under nearly every archived image, deleted accounts keep posting the same sentence. You should have let them finish speaking. Evan restores Claire's voicemail again. This time, he notices a second waveform hidden underneath the original one during the final 17 seconds. Lower. Quieter. Like someone whispering directly against the microphone. He isolates the audio track. At first it sounds like static, then breathing, then words, very slow words. Still here. Evan stops the recording. The voice sounds like Claire, but something about it feels wrong. Older, somehow. Exhausted, like she's been trying to speak for years. He checks the voicemail metadata again. The creation date has changed. July 14th, 2017. The same day Bellwether Point disappeared. Claire died in 2023. Hidden inside the archive is an old camcorder tape recovered from Bellwether Point. A family is eating dinner during a blackout. Candles flicker across the kitchen table while rain hits the windows outside. The father receives a phone call. At first, he smiles while answering it. Then his expression slowly changes. He stands up from the table. Everyone else becomes quiet. The father says, "No, she died last winter." Then the camera microphone cuts out. The rain disappears. The room tone disappears. Everything goes silent. But the waveform continues moving. The mother starts crying slowly. Not shocked crying. Recognition. Like she can hear something the camera cannot record. Then the youngest daughter turns toward the dark kitchen doorway. Nobody is standing there. She whispers. She says you never said goodbye. The father drops the phone. But in the reflection of the dark television behind him, his reflection is still holding it against his ear, still listening, still speaking silently. The footage ends. Later, when Evan replays the tape, the daughter is gone from the table completely. Nobody reacts to her disappearance, not even the family. Evan falls asleep while restoring the archive tapes. A few hours later, he wakes up to Claire's voice inside his headphones. Clear, warm, completely human. "Evan?" He starts crying immediately. Claire laughs softly, the exact way she used to whenever he became emotional too quickly. That small breath before laughing. That slight throat clear afterward. Tiny details nobody else would know. For a moment, Evan forgets to be afraid. Claire tells him she tried leaving messages for him, hundreds of them. But something inside the silence kept removing the endings. Evan finally asks the question he has been avoiding for years. "Claire, are you dead?" There is a long pause before she answers. "I don't think dead people are supposed to stay on the line this long." For a few seconds, the horror disappears completely. It just feels like grief. Then Claire says something else. "Evan, why are you still recording me?" His stomach drops instantly. He never told her about the archive. Then Claire whispers one final sentence. "There's another voice in your apartment." The line goes quiet. A few seconds later, somewhere deep inside the dark apartment, a disconnected phone begins ringing. The phone has been disconnected for 11 years. It belonged to Evan's mother. The caller ID reads, "Home." Evan answers slowly. At first there is only static, then breathing, then a child's voice, his own voice at 8 years old. "Mom?" A woman answers softly. Not his mother. Claire. Not yet. The call disconnects. 17 seconds of silence begin again. This time, the silence is full of overlapping whispers, interrupted apologies, half-finished final words, people desperately trying to complete conversations. Then one sentence rises above everything else. "You keep making more of us." Evan drives to Bellwether Point the next morning. The town looks untouched. Cars are still parked in driveways. Coffee cups still sit beside kitchen sinks. Old televisions glow with dead static inside empty houses. Every building contains phones. Phones hanging from walls. Phones resting on beds. Phones placed beside bathtubs. Every active line emits faint breathing. Evan enters the abandoned emergency dispatch center. Hundreds of cassette tapes cover the floor. Each tape contains a name and a timestamp. The exact second someone's goodbye disappeared. At the center of the room stands a massive reel-to-reel recording machine, still running, even without power. Thousands of telephone wires disappear into the walls behind it, like veins. A handwritten note is attached to the console. If the goodbye completes, the voice survives. Another note sits underneath it. If the goodbye is interrupted, the silence keeps listening. That is when Evan finally understands. Claire was never random. The silence built her. Every unfinished goodbye, every interrupted ending, every trapped final emotion. Over decades, the archive gathered them together and shaped them into someone emotionally impossible to let go of. Claire knew exactly what Evan needed, because she was made from human regret. Evan tries to destroy the recording machine. The moment he disconnects the reels, every phone in town rings simultaneously. Homes, hospitals, motels, police stations, cars abandoned in empty parking lots. Every phone begins vibrating at once. The entire town lights up. Voicemails start playing from empty buildings. People speaking to dead wives, dead children, dead parents. Some recordings are dated years into the future. Others contain no dates at all. Then all the audio cuts out instantly. The town becomes completely silent. But the waveforms continue moving across every screen. Something enormous is speaking. Human hearing simply cannot process it anymore. Then Evan notices something worse. The waveforms are reacting to him. When he breathes harder, they move faster. When he speaks, they pulse back a few seconds later, like the entire town is listening through him. Evan records one final message. He looks exhausted, completely drained. He warns future listeners not to stay for the silence after the audio ends. He says the dangerous part is not the voice, it is the silence afterward. Because the silence remembers emotional gaps, and once it recognizes yours, it starts building a version of the person you miss most, not to haunt you, to keep you listening. Evan begins crying quietly. He says he can no longer remember Claire's real face, only her voice, only the pauses between words, only the unfinished goodbye. Then someone touches his shoulder. The camera never shows who it is. Evan closes his eyes, relieved, terrified. He whispers, "Claire." A soft voice answers beside his ear, "No." The recording cuts. 17 seconds of silence begin. At second 11, the waveform spikes violently. At second 14, a second breathing pattern appears. At second 16, a voice whispers directly at the listener, "You left before I finished." The screen cuts to black, but the call timer keeps running.